Well, what's up? We're coming to another end of another week. If you're just following these things along in normal succession, we're on a Friday. If you're listening some other time, this is a Friday, and we are excited about the weekend. But we are thankful to be able to bring the Devotional podcast to you. We are in Esther chapter 4 from Chester ARP Church, and we pick it up in verse 1. The end of verse 3 is quite a dark scene. Every Jew knows at the end of chapter 3 that he or she is potentially going to be killed, and everything that they have is going to be taken from them in a matter of time. So a decree goes out from King Artaxerxes or Ahasuerus. A king goes out from him in December. Then word gathers everybody back together. Let's just use 12 months in January the 13th, and then word goes out to the kingdom, and it travels out to the kingdom. And by the time word gets out of the kingdom, everybody has time to prepare for the next December 13th, when everybody is going to go out and kill a Jew and has permission to do it and take whatever they want from them. Crazy, crazy thought. And so we see there's a very dark scene right now at the end of chapter 3, beginning in verse of chapter 4. This is what we read. When Mordecai learned that all had been done, Mordecai tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and he cried out with a loud and bitter cry. He went up to the entrance of the king's gate, for no one was allowed to enter the king's gate clothed in sackcloth. And in every province, wherever the king's command and his decree reached, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and lamenting, and many of them lay in sackcloth and ashes. I mean, come on. That is certainly something we would expect. So Mordecai finds out about this decree. All the Jews are going to be killed. The Medo-Persians are going to be ethnically cleansed of Jews. Mordecai finds out about it. He's living in Susa. We're told at the end of chapter 3 that everything's in confusion in Susa. He mourns, he tears his clothes, he puts on sackcloth and ashes, and he goes out in the midst of the city. You can imagine. And with a loud voice, he cries out a bitter cry. He went up to the entrance of the king's gate. He wasn't allowed to go in wearing sackcloth, but he goes up to the king's gate. He wants people to see him there. I think there's a sense in which I love this is what Mordecai does. Mordecai is a very wise man. And Mordecai understands that it's one thing to say we're going to rid the kingdom of the Jews. It's another thing to say we're going to rid the kingdom of the Jews when Jews are sitting right in front of us and when we know, right? So if you don't know any Jews, right, you can find yourself in a position and say, well, it's not a big deal. We don't like that idea, but we're not passionately going to oppose it because we don't really know anybody, then we're not going to be negatively affected per se by this. Right? We might not like it. We're going to say it's horrific, etc., but we're not going to have the raw emotion in response to it. However, when the Jew is humanized in front of us, when we see a Jew, when we know a Jew, right? When we know someone, like to picture yourself in the position of the residents of Susa. When you see a Jew and you see him mourning the reality of what's coming toward his people, and you see the representation of that Jew in front of you, and you have a human face to put to that person, and you have a human face to put to those people, and you have that relationship that you can't escape, there is a whole new nature of the repulsiveness of the act, of the repulsiveness of the particular decree. So I remember when I was at seminary, I knew a guy named Benjamin, and he was from Rwanda. And the Rwandan genocide, you may remember it, was the Hutus against the Tutsis. And so there was a complete and total desire by the Hutus to clear out the Tutsis from Rwanda. They wanted to ethnically cleanse Rwanda from the Tutsis, or of the Tutsis. And I remember that when I was at college, high school, college in the 90s, and I remember it was a concern, right? You're concerned about that. You come of age, you become concerned about that. But you didn't really have a personal connection to it. So it was something that happened across the globe. Well, when I met Benjamin was a Tutsi. And Benjamin told stories of how he had to hide in the attic of his grandparents' hut. And he watched them be killed, and he was on the run, he and friends, and they ate produce that they could find in fields, etc., as they were running from the Hutus. Now, that puts a face to the situation, and it becomes a much more emotional response, a much more repulsive act when you know someone who is directly affected by the action that is being taken against them? Well, with reference to Mordecai, he's smart. Mordecai is feeling the grief, he's feeling the pain, but he's also in the public demonstrating it, and people are seeing him. And so there is an important nature to what he's doing, because he's certainly grieving publicly, mourning publicly, but he's also advocating for the Jews. He's putting a face to a people group, and people are seeing it, and he is standing around in sackcloth and ashes. And then we're told that as it goes out, the decree goes out to the different provinces, that Jews all over the place are now putting on sackcloth and ashes and lamenting the reality of what's coming their way. But sackcloth and ashes is mourning, but repentance. And they're crying out to their God for salvation. Though his name is not mentioned here, we understand that what is happening here is the faithful Jews are coming back to the Lord and returning to him and calling upon him in faith and repentance, saying, God, do something about this situation. Do something about the fact that we are going to be taken out of this world. Our name, we are going to be cleansed from the kingdom of the Medo-Persians. God, remember your covenant to us, but also remember your covenant to save the world through us. We long for the Messiah. Save us, for the Messiah is to come. And so we see this people returning to the Lord, coming to him, coming before him and crying out to him, and not withholding their identity any longer, but making it known, because they know that as they make it known that God will be faithful to them. He will hear their prayers and he will answer it, and they're trusting him in it all. And we see God beginning to work through this, and we'll come to the conclusion next week as Esther then goes into the king and begins to advocate for the Jews before the king. You guys take care. God bless you. Just remember, God has called us to be faithful to him. We cry out to him. We testify to him, and we let him work, and we trust him in all things that he does. You guys take care. God bless you. We'll catch you next time.